Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about 5 different templates for dating and sex.
Yeah, motherfuckers, you thought I wasn't here, but I was just hiding. So the 5 different ones that we're going to talk about. Number 1, inviting girls straight over to your apartment for sex on the first date lay. Number 2, meeting them in public first, then immediately walking back to your apartment for sex. Again, a first date lay. Number 3, going to a bar or a cafe first for a date, and then going back to your apartment. So again, first date lay. Number 4, waiting until the second or the third date before you have sex. And number 5, waiting even longer than that to have sex.
Why would you wait even longer to have sex, Andy?
We're going to go through all the reasons, Cam. I'm so glad you asked that rhetorical question. First, let's make it very clear. There is no correct way to do dates. Pick whichever one aligns. No, I'm keeping this in, bitch. First, there is no correct way to do dates. So pick whichever one aligns with what you actually want.
Agreed. It's going to be down to your actual goals in dating as to which one you go for. They all have pros and cons, and we're going to talk about that. One method of dating is not better than anything else because that implies we all have objective desires in dating, and we don't. We all want different things, different stages of our lives. You're a younger guy, less experienced. You may want something over, say, me and Andy, who have been dating for like several years. We are both ethically non-monogamous, and we're going to have different things that we want from dating, and we have so it's like different tools for out of the toolbox as regards to how you approach your dating life.
Different tools from 2 tools. 2 tools will be giving you a bunch of different tools. So the first tool from the first tool is inviting girls straight over to your apartment. So we're talking about literally giving them your address and saying, come over at 6 p.m. We're going to obviously have sex. I did this for a while. Have you done this?
Yeah, so there was a specific time of our lives recently when this was like the only thing we could do. So I'm not going to say the country I was living in at the time. Yeah, there was a point where I switched. I'd never done it before, really. It wasn't really my style. But then we had to. I would say that I've actually done more going straight over to a girl's place that I've never seen before. We haven't actually put this down. I've had probably more booty calls where it's like, you're coming direct to mine. I had a few house party ones, which I guess it isn't something you've really experienced as much. Some of the girls I chase after, like party girls, rave girls, you'll get like an invite to be like, come meet me, I'm at this house party. And like, so you have to then go and like walk through like a house full of her friends, which is kind of a weird situation. This is very much straight to the down and dirty though, generally this one. This is like the fastest you're going to get from meeting to sex idea, probably in any method of dating there is. It's like, hey, I'm single on a dating app. You're single on a dating app. Let's meet up immediately and have sex.
I did this for quite a while, maybe a year or 2, and I had a lot of really hot, passionate sexual experiences because it can be very fucking hot. It's like she's literally coming over and we both know we're going to have sex and we just have sex immediately. I've done it all sorts of different ways. I've done it like she walks in the door and we've talked sexually beforehand. Like we already know, hey, we're going to meet and hook up. You kind of already know that if you're going straight to a guy's place and he's at home alone. And ways that you can make that more clear is you can literally directly say, come over, we'll fool around, we'll have some fun. Or you can say, I've got condoms. Or do you have condoms? You can make it really fucking obvious and be really honest about it. I've done it where she walks in the door and I immediately kiss her, like out of a fucking movie. Like literally the moment I first meet her, I just kiss her and we start having sex. That can be really hot and passionate. I've also done it where we chill for maybe half an hour or 15 minutes and talk, maybe an hour. Maybe watch a movie, just talk for a little bit. I've had a lot of really hot, amazing experiences doing this, but I have also had a hell of a lot of not so great experiences, which is why I stopped doing it. And it's not something that I recommend other guys necessarily do. If you said, I really want to do this, I would say, sure, go for it. Here's the ways to do it and be a bit more safe about it. But it's not something that I would advocate people do. But at the end of the day, you guys and girls do whatever you want to do. Just please be safe. This is the least safe of all the methods for you and her.
For them, yeah. If you're trying to do this a lot and you like lose girls on messaging or you get resistance, it's because there are girls out there that recognize, probably the majority, that this is quite a dangerous way to hook up. This is
sketchy.
Yeah. I guess because I've been invited to theirs, from my perspective, I don't think you went over straight to theirs that much, did you, in comparison? But
I've done it maybe 20 times where I've gone straight to
okay, that's quite.
She gives me her address and I go there.
Yeah, it's probably similar for me in terms of like, you ever go up and had to talk to her friends as well? Like, it just seemed to happen to me a lot that I would show up and like all of our housemates would be there and I'd be like, hey, I'm the guy that your friend has completely, and they would know. So it's an interesting situation to end up in. You can go in there and like immediately start having sex like Andy talks about, or you can go in there and hang around for an hour and have like a glass of wine or like a beer, or isn't it they come to you and you have like a beer and drink some wine and get to know them inside your own apartment. I prefer, if I'm still going back to this, invite them straight over, that we have a little bit of like on the sofa getting to know each other, compared to the full-on booty calls where I've had basically immediately make out, start having sex. You find yourself getting to know someone during sex, which is like or just directly
Very
after you've had sex.
weird, yeah.
Yeah, it's such a weird experience. But like, yeah, I understand a lot of guys, they want the rush. They want the quick, easy, dirty lays. And I can see why there's a turn on for some guys to like just repeatedly go for this. Also, like the time you save for a lot of guys and the money you can save are like big things too. I do recommend having a look back that you invite them to yours, not going to theirs.
It can be hot. It can also show you what you're capable of. It can make you feel like, holy shit, I'm the guy that can just have sex and zero effort, blah, blah, blah. For some guys, that's something that they've always dreamed of and they feel like it would be very meaningful to them. And so nothing that we say against it is probably going to talk you out of it. And so again, if you're going to do this, please be really fucking safe. It's not something that we recommend, but please be really fucking safe. And if this isn't something that's meaningful to you, but if you're sort of comparing yourself to other people and saying, well, the guys on the internet have done this, so I need to be an alpha male Chad and have a first date lay where I just get her straight to my apartment. Please don't be doing something like that just because some other dudes on the internet have done it. At the end of the day, it's important what your fucking goals are and who you want to be. And live a life that's true to you. Don't live a life to some random dude on the internet that you've never fucking met. Because here's two random dudes on the internet telling you right now, this comes with a lot of cons, a lot of negatives, a lot of things to be thinking about.
It's glamorized. It's completely glamorized.
So fucking glamorous, man.
I just want to say, like, I'm talking to you directly. You are not a pussy or a beta or whatever if you don't have girls coming to your door on the drop of a hat. You don't have to be able to do that or do that. You don't have to do that a lot to just for the sake of earning respect from other men for your dating life. Honestly, date in the first place for your own enjoyment and your happiness. Listen to the cons as well as the pros. Obviously, I was very negative there, I guess, I think. But they're obviously some of the most exciting, especially when I was a newbie, some of the most like adrenaline-fueled, exciting sexcapades of my dating life as well. And there is a certain amount of bragging rights that you get from like this, look at this girl, she just showed up to my door and was like down. There is a level there, isn't there, of propping up your ego, propping up your confidence a bit in the early days. As I said, I want to move on to the second one because I want to say that in my view, the second one we're going to talk about is what we would say the smart way of doing this is.
It's a safe way of doing this. Yeah. So to be clear, the second way of doing this is where you meet her in public first on a street corner, at a cafe or whatever, and then you walk back to your apartment. You're not going on a date, but you have like 5 or 10 or maybe 15 minutes where you're both walking back there to talk, to just make sure that there's not any giant red flags. Because the first way of doing it, inviting her straight to your apartment, there's so many things to consider, right? You're not getting a chance to screen for mental instability or bipolar or anything like that. You're not seeing any red flags or deal breakers before you have sex. If you see any red flags or deal breakers, she's now in your apartment and you're trying to kick out someone that maybe isn't mentally stable. And I've had a few of those situations. Retention is also a lot lower if you do these kind of methods. Sometimes you just don't end up liking the person or they don't end up liking you. But you've already had sex and you didn't give yourself a chance to see if you could figure that out or not. So you have sex and then afterwards you're like, I don't really think I like this person. I don't think I'm going to see them again. So you can end up with a lot more one-night stands if you're inviting them back. Having really, really, really quick sex like this can lead to a sex addiction. We're not saying that it will, but it can. It can lead to some very dark experiences. I've had 2 stalkers, which is why I stopped doing this kind of shit. More flakes, because girls obviously at the last minute can realize, holy shit, I don't think I can do this. Like, why am I going straight to his apartment? That's sketchy.
Catfishing, flake rate are like obvious negatives you can think of. Yeah, the idea of doing the walk beforehand is really to like get an idea of what they look like too. They match their pictures. It would also, I think, lower the flake rate if you were saying let's meet up somewhere first. Like, I would say try and meet somewhere. I understand this is difficult for people that their apartments are in like kind of the outskirts of nowhere, but if you can try and meet in a public place as well, like say I'll meet you at the train station near my apartment, train station, and then we'll walk back to my apartment from there. That is like dead on perfect situation. Because then it's like we're meeting in a really public area and then we'll walk back. So you do need to have the balls to evacuate in this, as in like eject in this little walk, like have the actual like cojones.
And that might happen sometimes.
Yeah. It's like, sorry, you just, whatever you reason, you're like, hey, I'm sorry that I made you come out all this way, but I'm not feeling it. I'll pay you for an Uber, whatever. I don't know. I've been nice to some people sometimes where I'm like, hey, I'll get you an Uber back. Because I'm a nice guy.
I've had to do that a few times. Yeah. I wrote this article, which sounds like such an obvious idea, but I think a lot of guys don't get it. Women understand this, but men don't. You're not obligated to have sex with someone. If a girl comes all the way out to see you and you've talked about sex, but then you meet her and you're like, I don't think I'm super attracted to her. Maybe she's a bit of a catfish. Maybe like she looks not as good as she did in her pictures. Maybe I just don't like her personality. A lot of guys will put this white knight pressure on themselves and say, well, she came all this way and I'd be a bad person if I didn't have sex with her. It's like, why are you having sex with someone that you don't want to have sex with? That's not kind, because you're probably not going to keep having sex with her. So now you've just had a one-night stand with someone that you didn't really want. You've lied to them. That's not kind. So the kindest thing that you could ever do is just be really fucking honest. If you meet in public and walk back to your apartment and halfway through that walk, you start finding like, I am not really into her, you're allowed to hit the pause button. Remember, you can even give yourself a chance to have a little bit of a think. What I mean there is you can say, hey, actually, do you mind if we go to a bar first? I just want to chill a little bit and get to know you before we go back to my place. And then, yeah, go sit in a bar. You calm down a little bit. Maybe you realize you do like her. You do want to have sex. Cool. Then go back to yours. Or you realize you're not really that into her. And then you just say like, hey, look, I had a really good time, but I don't think I want to go any further with this.
The ability to say what you want, even if what you want is for you to go home, is like important, you know what I mean, in terms of situations. But we do want to give you an easier time than the straight to the door method with this one. This is like the solution to the straight to the door method. I'm glad you mentioned the bar. I guess that neatly transitions us into, so this one is going to a bar first and then trying to have sex the same day or night.
We're saying go to a bar or a cafe first or a park or whatever, walk around for a little bit, whatever you want to do. Have a date for maybe an hour or two. We don't recommend really long, massive dates, like 3 or 4 or 5 hours, just because you both get tired after that much time. But more than anything, because that's a lot of pressure to expect two people to carry on a conversation when they are essentially strangers. And so after an hour or two, you just throw out a casual like, hey, I'm having fun. Do you want to come back to my apartment and chill? Or if you want to be even more honest and upfront, look, I'm really into you. I'm having a lot of fun. Do you want to come back to my place and make out a little bit, fool around, like see where things lead? Is that something you want to do? If she says no, just have a second date and try again. If she says no on that date, have a third date and try again. If she says no, then I would talk about it. If you've tried 3 times on 3 separate dates to invite her back and she doesn't want to, I'd just be like, hey, like, I just want to see where we're at. I'm really sexually attracted to you. I would like to have sex with you. Intimacy is important to me. If it's not something you want to do, I completely fucking understand. I'm not going to pressure you. I don't want you to do something you don't want to do, but we'll probably cut this off then. I don't want to keep going on dates if we're not going to have sex.
This is all about intent, basically. This is still sex to as fast as possible, but you had a bar date first. So like
you made sure you really liked each other.
So what's important here is that the intent is realistically the same as the first two, in that you're still trying to get to sex as quickly, more quickly than maybe society or girls at large claim to want, although a lot of girls have been, in my experience, very okay to have sex on the first date. Not something you should assume. The difference between this and the first two is that you are giving yourself, again, even more runway to see that you actually like the person. I enjoy dating. I'm going to be honest. This is the part where I tell everyone that I enjoy going on dates. When guys talk about how like their entire dating strategy is to like be as efficient and fast as possible and they only want to get to sex, and like that seems to be a majority of men in the dating communities, etc.
I think you miss out on some of the magic on a date. Like a date is a beautiful chance to socialize, if nothing else. Like you're talking to another human being and getting to open up your mind and learn about them. Yeah,
I'm extroverted as well. Like I want to meet people, and you know, girls are people, so you want to meet these people and get to know them. And then I don't want to put my dick in anything that I don't really like actually like, which is half the reason I've pushed away from doing the super fast methods, because it just gets old. It's basically just physical interaction.
And it can lower your self-esteem because
it can lower how turned on you are as well, frankly, if I'm being honest about it. Like how hot the sex is, like, you feel like you're not going to see this girl again sometimes as well because of how like transactional it feels. So like
it doesn't feel like you've built any sort of connection if you're just coming if she's just coming straight over and you're having sex like immediately, or even if you
I'm not trying to shit on that minutes. Like there's lots of guys that was really helpful for me when I was first starting out to get experience, but after a certain amount of it just gets old quickly, you know. So it's like one of those things where I want to give guys a chance to enjoy dating for its own experience.
You get a whole bunch of benefits when you do this. And again, let's make it really clear that we're not telling anyone what to do, but there are some benefits that we have noticed. One of the first ones, when you go on a date with a woman for an hour, 2 hours before you have sex, you get far less flakes in the lead up to the date because they're like, yeah, this is like socially acceptable. I'm going on a date with you. I don't feel slutty. The girls that you end up with, you tend to, on the whole, generally speaking, date them for longer. Just because you've both had a couple of hours to make sure that you really like each other before you have sex, you've screened out any deal breakers or red flags or any of that stuff. So you get less one night stands. And generally speaking, you get more girls that will stick around because you like each other more. You also get to build up sexual tension. It's going to sound crass, but I've had dates where I'm sitting there just listening to her talk, just staring at her lips going like, man, I just want to fuck your mouth. They can sense this energy. You do kind of miss a little bit of that if you're just having her come straight over.
Yeah, it's with the fast sex. If you get turned on by that, it's more about the situation of it and like the ego boost.
It's not so much about the other person.
Yeah, with this, it's more about like, what is she actually bringing to the table that's turning you on?
When you have very fast sex, as in she comes straight to your apartment, it can feel transactional sometimes because like you said, it's more that the situation is hot rather than the person is hot. And so it's less about the person. It's more, they're almost just a wet hole for your penis. And then in her case, like you're just a human dildo. So I've had some really great memories that I've made with women where I've gone on a date, we've hung out for an hour or two. I can think of like one in particular. We went geocaching together, which is where you go like treasure hunting together. We had just like...
You love the geocaching.
I did so much geocaching and the smile on her face when she would find these things. And then in that moment, I kissed her and then I was kind of like touching her a little bit, like as we were just walking around. We both got each other like really, really, really hot and like heavy and hot and horny. And then we go back to my place and just have the most amazing sex. So that leads into what you and I are doing now, which is we don't have sex on the first date anymore. Not you and I together. Like you and I do have sex with each other on the first date, but with girls that we're dating. We don't have sex with women that we date on the first date. I wait until the second, sometimes even the third date.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I've been dating the last year and a half. First, it was an experiment, and then the experiment bore fruit, so I kept on doing it. And primarily, I'm just concerned with retention. I date ethically non-monogamous, so like I'm trying to see multiple girls at the same time due to my business. So like trying to like work on my business and everything like that. I don't want to be going on dates every week. I'd rather retain 2 girls that I like for a long period of time. And that's where I'm at the moment. If I didn't think there was a retention issue with first date lays, I'd probably still be doing first date lays. But I do think there is to some degree,
Retention
at least in my
gets
experience.
so much better. Because I think more than anything, it's that you've both had a chance. If what we're talking about is going on a first date and you don't have sex on that first date. You can touch each other and make out, but I don't, and neither do you. And then on the second or the third date, you would have sex. What we've found, you just get more of a chance to really make sure that you like each other, really like each other, because you're giving yourself a chance after the first date to go away and think about it. And she gets to go away and think about it. Maybe she talks to her friends, maybe you talk to your boys or whatever, and you both make sure that like, hey, I really want to see this person again. You know, if someone is showing up a second time to see you, they like you. The more I've been doing this, the more I've just found the people that you end up with are people that you're on the same page with, that like you, that are probably going to see you because they've put a little bit more, there's more of an investment. They're probably going to keep seeing you because they've waited till date 2 or 3 before you've had sex. You're basically making sure that you're both a little more invested.
I like the idea that she gets more of a chance to decide on you as well. You are going to have a stronger chance of seeing that girl more long term. And if you are one of those guys who says, I want to retain quality girls, I would give this a go. You are giving yourself a better shot at retaining girls.
What I've personally found in my journey was at the start, I only cared about having sex as early as I possibly could, because I felt like I had something to prove to myself. Like, can I get a girl to just come straight to my apartment and have sex? Yes, I proved that, like, categorically did that like 100 times. Absolutely fucking proved that. And that really helped my self-esteem at the start a little bit. But then I found the more I did it, it was actually lowering my self-esteem, because a lot of the girls that came over, I ended up not liking, but we'd already had sex because we just had sex immediately. And I started asking myself the question of like, what does it say about me if I'm having sex with people I don't like? Isn't that me just like giving my sexuality away? Am I a slut? Like, am I just being a slut? And that's not a word that I use a lot, but I felt dirty. I felt cheap. I felt like I was cheapening myself, just giving myself away. And I found that at that point, when I transitioned to what if I wait till date 2 before I have sex? Or what if I wait till date 3 before I have sex? Because I was really vetting the women and making sure that I actually was super into them. And I screened for other things like, are they into self-improvement? Do they have goals? Can I respect them as a human being? When I started being a little more discerning with the women that I slept with, I found that it actually increased my self-esteem to be waiting longer. Because it's like, okay, now my dick only goes in someone who has earned this. I am essentially saying I am a man of value. Not everybody gets my dick. I'm not that horny boy that I used to be, who was just trying to stick his dick in anything that he could because like, oh, look, I have something to prove. Now I'm at the point where it's like, no, you need to earn my time. You need to earn me.
Yeah. The other thing as well is poor retention isn't good for your self-esteem either.
Yeah, retention definitely was a lot lower when I was just having women
Yeah.
come straight to my apartment. I also have found as a general trend, when I was just having really fast sex, as in getting them to come straight to my apartment, they were a lot more closed off.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm talking even if I saw them for like 6 months or 3 months or whatever, and we had a lot of sex and we got to know each other a little bit, they would be more closed off because what we had done is we had set the frame right from the very start. This is just sex. And even if I sat there and said, look, I want to get to know you, you know, all of that, it's like, but that's not the evidence that we both have. I literally came to your apartment and jumped on your dick within 10 minutes. No matter how much you say you care about me, the evidence is the opposite of that. And so I found that way more women were just closed off. They were less feminine to me. They were less giving. They were less caring. They were less kind. And they weren't mean or anything. They didn't want to get hurt. And so they closed themselves off and they were like, this is just sex. And they put it in a nice little box and they pigeonholed it and said, this is just sex. I found that when I started waiting until date 2, or even just going on a little date first for an hour or two, more of the women realized, or they felt like, okay, he actually wants to get to know me. He actually cares about me to some degree. I'm going to invest in him a little bit more. I'm going to care more about him. I'm going to buy him gifts. I'm going to cook him dinner. I'm going to do nice shit for him. I'm going to send him a thoughtful text message once every couple of days. I'm going to tell him a funny fucking meme or something that made me think of him. I'm just going to put in a little bit more effort because I can afford to, because he's probably not just using me for sex. I don't like the word using, but he's probably not just here for the sex. He probably wants some of the other stuff. So they'll actually try a lot harder. And you will be nicer to them too.
Because we're trying to date. We're not trying to, this is going to be a really simplistic way of putting it, but you and me aren't just trying to fuck. We're trying to date. So it's like, that's kind of
and at the start we were.
Yeah.
At the start,
and there are guys who watch you that are trying to do that. And it's like, no like judgment and no, I don't know what the word is here, expectation. But like, I want to be really honest here. If you've been like into sex and dating for like 5 years and you've got like a high lay count and you're still only going for like fast sex all the time and you have no intention towards retention, I would have a look at that personally. If I'm being really honest with you right now,
to me,
whoever's watching this video, I would really be honest with yourself after this length of time, and your entire approach to the dating life and dating market is more just one of compulsion than it is one of human interaction.
Because what makes us happy? Progress. Improvement, progress, feeling like we're building something, that makes us happy. If you're 5 years into having sex and all you care about is notches and just having more women, or if you're a woman and all you care about is just scratching that itch, are you progressing anymore? You already know if you've had sex with 50, or more than that women, are you learning anything? Are you growing the more women you have sex with?
No, it gets repetitive after like the first 20, to be honest. Like after, I think I was on like my 30 odd lays when I started realizing how repetitive it gets. And like the only thing you can really do is like,
unless you do something to make progress, unless you try something different, unless you have a growth mindset, unless you start screening harder, unless you start going on more dates and stuff like that. I would put it to you that everybody who has a lot of sex and starts out having very quick, easy, fast sex, most people move towards, okay, I want to at least go on a date first. And people have different time spans of when they actually do that. But every guy we've worked with eventually gets to a point where he's like, I think I just want to go on date. I think I want to really make sure I vet these women. Sometimes it's because they've had a bunch of bad experiences. Other guys, it's that they see the benefits of waiting a little bit longer. Or they meet a girl they really like and they go, fuck, maybe I could meet girls like this, more girls like this. How can I do that? Probably I just need to go on a date and get to know them.
I genuinely hope for guys' happiness in general that they recognize notch counting is really more for new guys, if I'm being honest. And if you see, I've met some guys with incredibly high notch counts that I truly believe. And like, it's pretty obvious that at some level it's compulsion beyond like the guys with like 400 plus. I've seen just the lifestyles they live and like going out with them and stuff. And like, there's a serious amount of like sort of trained compulsion. And like a lot of everything's reinforced to their idea of like lay count being important, or like they just need to get laid every night. There is something worth being introspective there. I guess we should talk about the final one as well. You have some notes.
The fifth one is waiting longer than 3 dates. So, waiting 4 dates, 5 dates, 10 dates, whatever. This is something that I've done a couple of times. One was a very shy Vietnamese virgin girl. So we waited till date 8 before we finally had sex, but we were fooling around sexually from the 4th date onwards. So we were making out, eventually fingering, blowjobs, stuff like that, just slowly exploring. Another time was a Chinese girl that we went on 4 dates with before we had sex. She wasn't a virgin, but she was also inexperienced. A lot of my conservative friends also do this. They wait a lot longer than 3 dates, like a lot longer. Like they might go on 10 dates or so. They meet each other's friends, family, like that kind of shit before they will actually have sex. A lot of people in mainstream society wait longer than 3 dates. But I think that's for most people because they're too nervous or they don't know how to pull the trigger. No one's told them how to make a move. They don't know that they can just say, yo, I'm having fun. Do you want to come back to my place and fool around a little bit? They don't know they can be that honest.
That's my concern. The guys who are doing this are doing it not out of choice. They want to have sex earlier than this, but they're not.
They just don't know.
They don't have to pull the trigger, or they're scared. They have like things in their mind. But I guess we want to talk about doing this as like an actual strategy. So sorry, I'll let you continue with the pros.
The recommendation that I would make for the vast majority of people that are following our content is I would go on your first date. Invite her back if you're feeling it. If she says no, cool, go on the second date, invite her back. If she says no, invite her back on the third date. If she still says no, then I would have a conversation about it. Mm-hmm. And so I wouldn't just go on 8 dates or something, not knowing if you're going to have sex, not knowing if she's into you, not knowing if there's chemistry. I would sit there and talk to her about it. If on the third date you invite her back and she says no, it's not about the third date. It's about, did you invite her back 3 times? So if you don't invite her back to your apartment on the first or the second date, but you invite her back on the third date and she says no, that's the first time you've asked her back. So then I would try again on the 4th date and the 5th date. So I'll make it really clear. It's after you've invited her back 3 times across 3 different dates. If she says no all 3 times, then I would say like, hey, let's talk about this. Don't put any pressure on her. You're not talking her into it. You're trying to get her to give you an answer. So you're not trying to talk her into a yes. You are trying to talk her into a decision. If that decision is no, fucking beautiful. I love that you know what you want. That's awesome. I hope you go out and find it. I'm going to go my own way. But I wouldn't sit there and just wait till date 8 before something happens. I would ask, or I would talk about, you're on the same team, remember? You're not trying to talk her into something. You both want the same thing. Or if you don't want the same thing, you find that out and make that decision. I wouldn't just go on a bunch of dates. And what has happened in my experience, like with some of the Chinese or Vietnamese, very inexperienced, very shy, culturally conservative women, when I invite them back 3 times and they say no, and then I say, hey, like, let's talk about this. They say, oh, it's just because in my country, like, we don't come back to boys' apartments. We just don't do that. And we don't kiss in public. We don't hold hands. And then I say, okay, well, like, what would you like to do? What do you want to do? And they go, well, I really like you. I would like to have sex with you, but is it okay if we go slow? It's like, yeah, of course we can. We'll go as slow as you need to. How about every time we go to my apartment, we will just try some stuff and whatever you want to do, we'll do. And if you feel like we're moving too fast, you just say, hey, can we please slow down? And I'll say, yeah, sure, let's slow down. I find it easy to have sex if you're very honest and you're willing to communicate and you're willing to go at their own pace. And so many of them, we've ended up not having sex until like the 3rd or the 4th or the 5th or the 6th or the 8th date. But we were like moving towards it. So we were exploring, we were trying stuff. I was teaching her stuff. We were seeing what she liked and all of that. I wouldn't just sit there and not do anything sexual for like 8 dates in a row. I think that's a friendship date. That's not sex. And again, like you said, I think a lot of people do that. We want to make sure that if you're a man listening, or even if you're a woman listening, if sex is important to you, don't go on a bunch of friendship dates. Make sure that sex is on the menu. Make sure that you're both moving towards it. You can talk about sex.
Progression is important. Yeah, it's like one of those things.
You
like
feel like you're building something.
Guys, when they say like, "Oh, I went on this 3rd date and nothing," like they made out on the 2nd date or something. They went on a 3rd date and there was like no physicality or whatever like that. That's concerning for me. Some reports that they went on this. They had a 2nd date they made out, and on a 3rd date it was like we went for coffee. We sat there for 20 minutes and then we left without doing anything. And I'd be like, okay, you've gone backwards in this, and there's no progression, and you haven't had an open conversation. You've just like expected something to go and it didn't. That's where I would say that you should maybe go on the 4th date and figure out if it's progressing, if they are going to come out on a 4th date with you.
Yeah, and if you're not sure, if you literally think, I don't know if things are progressing with this woman, fucking ask her. Just talk about it.
Yeah.
Be like, hey, look, sex is important to me. I want to always be moving towards that. If that's something that you don't want, just tell me. No hard feelings, no pressure. I'm not going to hate you for it. I would actually respect the fact that you're honest. So like, where are we at? What you'll often find is women will tell you, I'm just shy, or I'm nervous, or I've been hurt before, or I just don't want to feel slutty, or is it okay if we just go slow? Or I really like you, I'm just not ready yet. And then you can have a conversation. Now she's giving you a problem that you can solve together if she wants you to solve it with her. And most of the time women do. Most people do. So you can sit there and say, okay, you feel really shy and nervous and you're scared. You just don't want to get hurt. How could I help you with that? How can we solve that problem? What would you need from me to not feel like you're being hurt? And then she might tell you some stuff. Well, I just want to make sure you respect me. And you'd be like, yeah, I do. Like, let's talk about that. I genuinely do respect you. And make sure you're being honest about all of this shit. This isn't like manipulation or anything. But you sit there and you problem solve. A lot of the time, what guys call last minute resistance or objections or any of that kind of shit. No, she's trying to fucking reach out to you and say, I'm nervous about this, or I'm shy about this, I'm scared of this. She's asking for your fucking assistance. See it for what it is. It's a human being who has some fears or some thoughts or some doubts or some insecurities, and you can help her with that. If you're going to not have sex until the 4th, 5th, 6th, 10th date or whatever, I would still want you to be making progress that whole time. So I'd want you to be kissing more or touching more or talking about sex more or exploring more or getting together in bed more. You don't have to have full-on sex, but make sure that you're making some sort of progress because you're then both communicating to each other. Sex is important to us. Me as a man, sex is important to me. So she's less likely to get complacent or to just not see sex as that important. I see a lot of people that wait until like date 10 or something to have sex because both of them, or often the woman, is asexual. Like she's just not a sexual person. And so I wouldn't want you guys to get into that sort of situation. If sex is important to you, don't get yourself in a situation with a woman who's just not sexual. Like she just doesn't care about sex because you end up in a dead bedroom situation. It's just not fucking fun. Mm-hmm. So we'll summarize everything we've said here today. At the end of the day, we want you guys to do what's right for you. It's not that one of these is better. They come with their own pros and things to think about. And if you aren't sure which one to do, we would recommend going slow with this stuff. You don't have to be some big dick alpha male Chad God who just invites women over within 5 seconds of meeting them. Please don't compare yourself to other people and feel like you're coming up short. Go at your own pace. Go at a pace that you're comfortable with, a pace that she's comfortable with. Just try and invite her back to your apartment on the first date if you can, or the second date, or the third date, whatever. Like we said, just be trying to make a little bit of progress each time. That can be touching, that can be kissing, that can be talking about sex. That's progress. Even you saying, do you want to come back to my place? That's making progress. You're now communicating to her, I do kind of want to fool around with you. Like I've literally asked you back to my place. We both know what that means. So just make sure you're always making progress. But it's okay if you're nervous. It's okay if you go slow.
It's likely that if you have like a long and varied dating life, that you're going to experience basically all of these at some point.
Yep.
If you were in the game for long enough, they will kind of happen to you at different stages. And you go through stages. That's something we haven't really spoken about, is that like you go through stages of your dating experience, your dating life. And so at different stages, wanting different things, you're going to want to pick different tools. In summary, it's what we said at the beginning, which is these are all tools. Like these approaches are all tools that do different things and give you different feelings, and give you different sexual experiences. You pick the one that aligns most with what you're looking for at this particular time.
Yeah. And one extra thing that I want to add in there, the dynamic can change depending on the person. You can kind of get a feel for this depending on the person that you're with, the woman that you're with. With some women, you're going to hit it off immediately, and there's just a ton of passion and sexual tension. You're both just charged up, and you have to have sex on the first date. You're so like ready for each other. You just want each other. You might meet another woman who's just a little bit shy. Maybe she's a virgin. Maybe she's just not that experienced. And you kind of take your time together. You slowly explore. You teach her some stuff. You see what she's comfortable with. You don't push her. Like you respect her boundaries and all of that. You go slow with foreplay, and then finally you have sex on like the 5th date. It's about doing whatever you want, and then obviously making sure that she's happy to come along for the ride. So I would have an idea in your mind of what you want, and you communicate that to her, and then she says, yes, I would love to do that, or no, I wouldn't. Here's something else I would like to do. So it's kind of like a push-pull with each other. You're making sure that you're both in sync, but you as the man, I would say that you want to be the one that has the idea in your head. Obviously, be upfront and honest with every woman. I often just text women exactly the dynamic I'm looking for. Like I will literally say what we're going to do on the date sometimes. I would just be autistically honest about it and say, hey, we're going to go to Starbucks. We'll hang out for an hour. If we like each other, we can come back to my place and fool around. Other times I will tell them, hey, listen, for the first date, I don't have sex. We're just going to go and grab a coffee, get to know each other. And if we like each other, we can do that on the second or the third date. So you can be honest and tell women what the dynamic is, and then everyone's on the same page. And if she's not happy, you can change something and try something else. It's like a two-way street of communication.
If you want direct help with your dating life, then consider joining our coaching program, where the pair of us will spit roast you with our help and our knowledge. And Andy wanted me to say the words spit roasting you. We actually do provide incredible support and help for guys who are going through the same situations that we've talked about. But we also, you know, cover other things as well, like business help, helping your everyday productivity, helping your mental state, being there for you guys in an intensive group coaching program to get you whatever goals you're looking for, to get you whatever result you're looking for. We'll have your back. If you're interested in that, there'll be links down below.
We would both love to spit roast you with amazing epiphanies and information and just be at both ends of your coaching journey, going balls deep.
Just endless spit roasting. It's just all spit
endless
roasting.
Spit roasting of just amazing information.
Directly invite over for some spit roasting.
Indeed.
All right, peace out. Fuck.